At the beginning of the 1960s, a theme park opened in Japan that looked very similar to Disneyland in California. The layout, the entrance, and the way the park was organized all followed a structure that people had already seen before. Visitors would enter through a main area and move toward a central point, with different theme sections spread out around it. But the buildings looked simpler, the rides felt less detailed, and the overall experience didn't quite match what Disneyland had established. The park was called Nara Dreamland. For years, it operated as an unofficial version of Disneyland in Japan. It started as a large and ambitious project, but over time, it would become known for something very different. The project was led by Kunizo Matsuo, a Japanese businessman active in entertainment and large-scale developments. In the late 1950s, Matsuo traveled to the United States and visited Disneyland Park, which had recently opened. At the time, Disneyland was already attracting large crowds. It brought together rides, themed environments, and a clear layout in a way that hadn't really been done before on that scale. Matsuo saw how the park worked and how popular it had become. Back at home in Japan, interest in Western-style entertainment was growing. Matsuo saw the opportunity and decided to build something similar. He tried to work with Walt Disney to build an official version of Disneyland in Japan. The details of these discussions are not entirely clear, but we know that no agreement was ever reached. It is speculated that the cost of licensing was too high and that there were disagreements over how the park would be managed. What is clear is that Matsuo did not move forward with an official partnership. Instead, he continued the project independently. Without access to Disney's branding or characters, the park would have to rely on its own versions of attractions and themes. For the location, Matsuo chose a site in Nara, a city located between Osaka and Kyoto. The land had previously been used by the United States military after World War II, which left behind a large open area that could be developed. To manage the project, a new company was created to oversee construction and operations. The project was large for its time. The park covered a wide area and cost around $14 million to complete, around roughly $130 to $150 million in today's money. By the early 1960s, construction was finished and the park was ready to open to the public. When Nara Dreamland opened in 1961, the similarities to Disneyland were easy to recognize. The park used a similar layout, with a central area and themed sections branching out from it. Visitors entered through a main street lined with buildings and shops, which led toward a central structure that acted as a focal point. Around this central area were different themed sections, each containing its own rides and attractions. Many of these followed the same ideas seen in Disneyland. There was a train that circled the park, rides based on vehicles moving through set paths, and larger attractions placed within themed environments. At the same time, there were clear differences. Many of the buildings and rides were more basic compared to Disneyland, and the overall level of detail was lower. It was like a cheap knockoff. Even with those differences, the park offered something new for visitors in Japan, especially at that time. After opening, Nara Dreamland quickly became a popular destination. For many visitors, this kind of theme park was still new. The combination of rides, themed areas, and a clear layout made it stand out from other forms of entertainment available at the time. Attendance increased over the following years. The park eventually reached around 1.5 to 1.6 million visitors per year at its peak. Families and tourists visited regularly, and the park built a strong reputation as a place to spend a full day. For a time, the park was seen as a major successful in Japan. But as the years went on, the park began to change. While the original design followed Disneyland quite closely, later additions moved away from that approach. New rides were added that focused less on themed environments and more on generic amusement park experiences. In the late 1970s, a roller coaster was built near the center of the park, close to the main structure. This marked a shift toward adding larger thrill rides that didn't necessarily fit the original theme. Over time, more attractions like this were introduced. During the 1980s, further changes were made. Themed areas was replaced with a water park section, adding a different type of activity for visitors. These updates helped keep the park active, but they also made the overall design feel less consistent. The park was no longer just a version of Disneyland. It had started to become a mix of different ideas. In 1983, a major change took place in Japan's theme park industry. Tokyo Disneyland opened to the public as an official Disney park, built in partnership with the Walt Disney Company. Unlike Nara Dreamland, this new park had full access to Disney's characters, branding, and design standards. The level of detail, maintenance, and overall presentation was much closer to the original Disneyland in California. The response was immediate. Tokyo Disneyland attracted large crowds from the beginning, reaching millions of visitors in its first year. For many people, it offered a more complete version of the experience that Dreamland had failed to recreate. Nara Dreamland now had direct competition from the original concept, and the difference between the two parks became clear to visitors. After the opening of Tokyo Disneyland, Nara Dreamland began to lose visitors. With a newer and more detailed park available, many people chose to go there instead. As visitor numbers dropped, the condition of the park also began to change. Maintenance appeared less consistent, and signs of wear became more noticeable. Buildings looked older, paint faded, and smaller details were no longer kept at the same level as before. The atmosphere of the park started to shift as well. On certain days, large parts of the park felt quiet, with fewer people moving through the main areas. Rides continued to operate, but without the same level of activity. Although the park was still open and functioning, it was no longer in the same position it had been in during its earlier years. The gap between Dreamland and its newer competitor continued to grow. As attendance declined, efforts were made to keep the park relevant. New rides were added during the 1990s, including larger attractions and smaller flat rides that could appeal to a wider audience. The water park area was also expanded, offering seasonal activities that were different from the rest of the park. While these updates helped for a time, they didn't fully solve the problem. The park now had a mix of older attractions and newer additions that didn't always fit together. Compared to newer parks, it still felt less detailed and less maintained. Over time, the changes slowed down and the park continued to lose its position. In 2001, another major theme park opened nearby, Universal Studios Japan. Unlike Tokyo Disneyland, which was further away, this park was located much closer to Nara. Universal Studios Japan offered a different type of experience, with attractions based on films and larger, more modern rides. Like Tokyo Disneyland, it was built with a high level of investment and attention to detail. This added even more pressure on Nara Dreamland. Visitors now had multiple options, both offering newer attractions and a higher level of presentation. With two major parks competing for attention, Dreamland became less appealing to many visitors. Attendance continued to drop, and it became more difficult to maintain the park at the same level as before. By the early 2000s, the condition of Nara Dreamland had clearly declined. The park was still open, but many areas showed signs of aging. Paint was faded, structures looked worn, and overall maintenance appeared limited. Visitor numbers were much lower than in earlier years. On some days, large sections of the park felt empty, with few people moving through the main areas. Even though the park was still running, it was clear that it was no longer keeping up with its competitors. The combination of lower attendance and reduced upkeep worsened its position even further. By the mid-2000s, the park was no longer able to maintain its operations at the same level. Attendance had dropped significantly, and running the park year-round was no longer sustainable. In response, it moved to a reduced schedule, opening only on weekends and holidays. Even with these changes, the situation did not improve, and on August 31, 2006, Nara Dreamland closed permanently. After more than 4 decades, the park shut down without any major redevelopment plans in place. The site was left as it was, with its buildings, rides, and layout still intact. After the closure, the land remained under private ownership, and the park was remained untouched. In the time that followed, early signs of abandonment began to appear. Grass started to grow through cracks in the pavement, and outdoor areas were exposed to weather without maintenance. The entrance and main pathways slowly lost their original appearance. Security at the site was limited, and over time, people began to enter the property without permission. With no active use or oversight, the park shifted from a closed attraction into an abandoned theme park. Over the next few years, Nara Dreamland began to attract attention from urban explorers and photographers. The park had been left largely in place, making it unusual compared to other sites that are quickly demolished after closing. People who entered the park documented what they found inside. Rides, buildings, and walkways were still there, often left in the same condition as when the park closed. This gave the site a sense of being frozen in time. Photos and videos of the park started to spread online, bringing attention to it beyond the local area. The contrast between what the park had been and what it had become now was remarkable. By the 2000s, the condition of the park had changed significantly. Without maintenance, structures began to break down, and vegetation spread throughout the site. Grass, bushes, and trees grew into areas that had once been clear walkways. Many of the larger rides were still standing, but they showed clear signs of aging. Metal surfaces rusted over time, and parts of the structures were covered by overgrowth. Smaller attractions remained in place, but were no longer functional. Buildings also deteriorated. Windows were broken or missing, and interiors were exposed to the elements. In some areas, walls were marked by graffiti, while others remained mostly untouched but clearly worn. For several years, the site remained unused. Redevelopment was delayed by ownership issues and the cost of clearing such a large property. Over time, pressure increased to move forward with a solution. In 2015, the land was put up for auction. It was eventually sold to a local real estate company for just $6 million. As part of the process, the new owner agreed to clear the site. Demolition began soon after. Interior items were removed first, followed by the dismantling of buildings and larger structures. Heavy equipment was brought in to take down the remaining attractions and clear the land. By 2017, nearly all visible parts of the park had been removed, leaving behind an open area where the park had once stood. Nara Dreamland reflects a specific period in the development of theme parks in Japan. At the time it was built, this type of large-scale entertainment was still new in the country, and the park introduced a format that would later become more common. Over time, as newer parks opened with more resources and stronger branding, Dreamland became less competitive. Even so, it played a role in the early growth of theme parks in Japan. Its history shows how ideas can be adapted in different ways, and how those projects can change over time. Looking back, Nara Dreamland stands out as an unusual project. It started as an attempt to recreate a successful idea and went on to operate for more than 40 years. During that time, it moved from early success to gradual decline, and eventually to abandonment. Each stage reflected changes in the industry and in what visitors expected from a theme park. Today, only limited traces remain, but the story of the park continues to be remembered as a unique part of theme park history.